Hey folks, it's time for the quote of the day. And on this journey to quote people on their birthdays, I often have days like today where there really isn't anybody that necessarily jumps out at me. And so instead of looking at names, I look at professions. And it just so happens that I actually did know somebody that was born today that I their name is just so kind of obscure that I didn't really think about them at all as what they are. Today, I'm quoting a gentleman by the name of Morris Raphael Cohen. Now, a lot of people aren't going to recognize that name. A lot of you don't know who the fuck that is, but he is a very, very well-known American philosopher. The problem is that he kind of only is known in that circle, right? Like that's really all he's known for is kind of teaching philosophy and breaking down philosophy. He wrote a bunch of books, but they weren't like bestsellers or anything like that. He didn't like reinvent the wheel, but he has this ability as an educator. And this is, something that his students, which include some very, prominent names, he had an ability as a teacher to kind of he would take arguments or ideas or even some fundamentals that are put forward in philosophy, and he would break them apart and mock them apparently relentlessly, and to the joy of his students, and then he would put them back together and kind of explain why he was putting them and how he was putting these arguments back together, and then say, okay, and then you can have this. And he would kind of unleash these foundational and important arguments on his students in a way that they understood now the nuance involved, and they knew that not all of it was necessarily he didn't make them doubt it. He made them understand it to the point where they could question it. And I think that when you get into philosophy, when you understand the nature of philosophy, it's the people that make the biggest strides in terms of understanding are the people that can do that, that can really break down and question, why do we think this way? Why do we believe that this is true? Why is this the thing that happens? When you can start to answer those questions really deeply, and then look at others and say, okay, yeah, now look at how this works, and this is why people do this, and you start to have a better understanding of philosophy, not just philosophy, but just human life and existence in general. Now, for me to continue with this and give you a quote, I'll probably give you two quotes from him actually, because they are important, and they're his writing. They're said relatively close together. Um, to give you this, I'm going to give you a dictionary definition. I'm going to read to you from the dictionary. I know that seems a little. I'm not trying to be a jerk about it, but I think that this is important because I think that some people maybe don't know this, especially people that unfortunately probably won't see this video, but people that need to know this definition. I'm going to give you the dictionary, literal fucking Merriam-Webster dictionary definition of liberalism. I know that anybody that sees this that is of the opposing mindset is going to go, well, that's your brain's wrong with you. There's something wrong with you because you're liberal. I know that that's the natural inclination for those people, to which I would say, if you knew how to do the book learning, then you wouldn't think that way. But since you don't, well, anyway, a liberal or liberalism, the simplest definition I could find, uh, inclination to be open to ideas and ways of behaving that are not conventional or traditional. Okay, I'm going to read that one more time. Inclination to be open to ideas and ways of behaving that are not conventional or traditional. That is the dictionary definition of liberalism. And I wanted to give you that because the quote that I'm going to give you from Morris Raphael Cohen is it talks about these concepts. This was something that was very important to him. He was a very big proponent of liberalism, and especially liberal democracy. He spoke out all the time against fascism. He spoke out even against communism because he understood that democracy and a particular way of understanding things where people are their needs are taken care of and they are allowed to be free and not tethered to anything. This was important. This was an important thing to understand. And so he often spoke strongly about this. If people today had professors like him, they would be the ones that would be considered the ones that indoctrinate, right? Like he would be the guy that you would go to his class and you would come out, oh, imagine that, smarter and more open, right? Like that's the kind of teacher that he was. And I think that people they forget that that's what the job of a teacher is to make it so that you don't just come out as a drone. you come out with the ability to think for yourself and question things. Like, that's the point of learning. So, with that in mind, I'm going to give you two quotes. Now, I just gave you the dictionary definition of liberalism, and I'm going to give you that because this first quote talks about liberalism. Raphael Cohen once said, "Liberalism is an attitude rather than a set of dogmas. An attitude that insists upon questioning all plausible and self-evident propositions, seeking not to reject them, but to find out what evidence there is to support them, rather than their possible alternatives." I'll read that again. I know that for some folks, his language here is, it can be a little confusing. So I'm going to read it again, and then we'll talk about it. But I'm going to give you another quote to kind of counter it. Liberalism is an attitude rather than a set of dogmas, an attitude that insists upon questioning all plausible and self-evident propositions, seeking not to reject them, but to find out what evidence there is to support them, rather than their possible alternatives. Okay. Now, I'm gonna leave that there, and I want to give you one other quote so that you have an idea of what I'm talking about here, because he is 100% correct with this, in my opinion, and I think that it's very important that people understand it as we move further into understanding what we're fighting against and what we're fighting for. Understanding these concepts, I think, is very important. Raphael Cohen also said this: "Conservatism clings to what has been established, fearing that once we begin to question the beliefs that we have inherited, all the values of life will be destroyed." I'll read that one more time. Conservatism clings to what has been established, fearing that once we begin to question these beliefs that we have inherited, all the values of life will be destroyed. Now, what is the point of what I'm trying to say here, or what he was trying to say, I should say? It really comes down to this. Going back to that dictionary definition of liberalism, liberals, I know that people have all sorts of, popular usage definitions and things like that, but we arrive at this term for a reason, and it is about change. It's about taking in the way that the world moves and changes and the way that things are going, and adopting and adapting to those changes and moving in a certain direction. Progressives, those kind of things. Conservatives say, no, these are the pillars, right? There are pillars of the foundations of what we are, and if we move too far away from them, then the whole thing will come tumbling down. Now, I'm not trying to diminish conservatism for this, at least at this point. I know I do it often, but at least at this point, that's not what I'm trying to do. The point is to try to explain why I agree with Raphael Cohen in that conservatism can oftentimes lead us in this direction where we are immovable. We can't get away from it because, again, these are foundational pieces. These are pillars. They keep us stuck there. And for conservatives, that is something that they consider to be a good thing because they always have those things to lean on. They always have them to fall back on. And if you were to remove those, then what? Then what is life? What is the whole meaning of all of this? Because they really do look at life that way. There is order, there is structure, there is always the same thing there. They need that. They crave it. It is important to them. And then now we have in the political sphere people talking about, the pillars of conservatism that that's been forced down all our throats, family values and shit like that. Like we've been told this lie about what they're supposed to be about, but the true conservatism is saying, these values are what's important, and we're going to move through life holding these pillars down. The problem is that with the way that the conservative and the Republican Party looks now, conservatism has been tied to the Republican Party that is now, we recognize that it's all a load of fucking bullshit, because none of them do it. None of them are actually conservatives. They're all Republicans, and they will follow their leader no matter if he's conservative or not. And so understanding these definitions is important. And I think that when you do, it leads you towards the inevitable conclusion that Raphael Cohen reached as well, that liberalism truly is the only way forward. Happy birthday to him, and to the rest of you. Take care of yourself. Take care of others. I'll talk to you soon.